Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, October 5th City Council meeting. As I usually do at the beginning of these meetings, I'm just going to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones to minimize interruptions. That would be fantastic, please. I think the first thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I have got one minor change that I would like. Oh, sorry. Oh, roll call. I always forget roll call. Thank you, Jackson.
Councilmember Babcock. Present. Councilmember Bacon.
Present.
Councilmember Draheim.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Watson.
Here.
Mayor Gregg.
Here. Thank you, Jackson. I appreciate you reminding me. All right, so I would like to move approval of the agenda with one change. I would like to bump item 3, the special presentation for the swearing in of Chief Don Carson, up to immediately following our opening. So that would place it before communications, and it would allow all of these fine folks from our fire department to get home to their well-earned rest. So if anyone would like to second with that change.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bacon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That appears to be unanimous. All right, approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting of September 7th. I guess we could move approval of both at the same time. Can we do that? Approval of both of the listed minutes. That would include the discussion minutes from September 14th. Anybody willing to move that? Moved by Councilmember Draheim.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, again, appears to be unanimous. All right, I am going to bump this over to our city manager, George Lahanas, for the special presentation of Fire Chief Don Carson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am very pleased tonight to be able to introduce for swearing in the East Lansing Fire Department's newest fire chief, Chief Don Carson. If you'll allow me, I'll quickly run through her many credentials. Chief started with the city of East Lansing in 1994 as a firefighter paramedic and has been with us for 27 years. She has a bachelor's degree in sports medicine from CMU and a master's degree in organizational management from Siena Heights. She completed her EMT at Lansing Community College. She was promoted to the rank of lieutenant in 2011, promoted to the rank of captain in 2013, and promoted to deputy chief in 2016. She is also a Lansing Metro Technical Team Rescue Team member. And significantly, Chief Carson is the first female fire chief to serve the city of East Lansing, and as far as we know, also the entire Greater Lansing region, the first female fire chief. We are very pleased, and I am very pleased to introduce her as our fire chief for her ceremonial swearing in. I would call her forward and Clerk Schuster to administer the oath.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support
I do solemnly swear I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of this state,
the Constitution of this state,
the Charter and the Code
the Charter and the Code
of the City of East Lansing,
of the City of East Lansing,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Fire Chief
the duties of Fire Chief
in the City of East Lansing
in the City of East Lansing
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and City Manager, I would like to thank you for having the confidence that you have in me to make this appointment. I am both humbled and honored to accept this position as Fire Chief, comprehending and accepting the responsibilities that comes with it. I will proudly serve with the highest of standards alongside the professional men and women of the East Lansing Fire Department in providing the residents of East Lansing emergency medical services and fire protection. This process would have never come to fruition if not for my faith, family, and friends. to all I think. I would like to recognize my parents who are here tonight, Harold and Karen Carson, if they would stand up. My sister's a shout out, she's Zooming this from Cadillac, Michigan. And a thank you to my blue family along the wall as well. Thank you.
Congratulations, Chief Carson. We are delighted to welcome you into this new role. I'm going to give them just a few minutes for the audience members that don't want to join us for the rest of this riveting meeting to clear out before we move on to our communication section. And people who are standing, if you want to take a second to sit down for your own comfort. All right, so communications. All written communications received by council are posted on the online agenda packet. We update that a few hours before this meeting convenes, so if you have sent something into our council address and you do not see it on the website, it might just be that you didn't quite make that deadline. If that's not the case, then please alert us immediately that you would like to have your communications included in that packet, and that is available for anyone who would like to view on our website. Communications from the audience. I have got one blue card so far from Karen Mitchell from Boy Scout Troop 2. If you would like to come up to the podium.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Ooh, okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Mitchell, and I'm a Life Scout with Scouts BSA, part of Troop 2 here in East Lansing. This year, we'll be celebrating our 100th year anniversary as a troop. We are the oldest continuously chartered troop in the state of Michigan. The People's Church has been our outstanding chartered organization since October 31st, 1921. We would like to thank the City of East Lansing and the People's Church for the support they have showed us over the years. I would like to leave you with a short quote from one of our youth leaders, Madison, who cannot join us this evening. This is from her school essay contest about one of our adult leaders and being her hero, because he educates, creates, leads, and helps us laugh when we need it. He does it all without needing an award, even though he deserves them. So instead of having you picture a hero to end this essay, I want you to go and find one. Find one or many people in your life who go above and beyond. Thank them, please. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the history of your troop. That's quite an accomplishment. I want to mention that we are always happy to pass resolutions of acknowledgement in cases like that. And if you wanted to work with our council secretary to get something that we could pass, we would be delighted to do that. It seems like a significant anniversary to recognize. And thank you for joining us tonight. That was my only blue card. Emily, do we have anybody on Zoom joining us for public comment?
We do. So Kevin Helm, you are now permitted to address council. There we go. Kevin, you can go ahead and speak to council if you would like.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I don't really have too much prepared other than just say we're seeking to get approval for a pretty we're going to be running one here in a few weeks, a small raffle to raise money for our foundation, which, well, specifically for PGA Hope programming, which is a program to help military veterans kind of teach them golf, and it's free to all the veterans that participate. So we're just doing a simple fundraiser and selling some raffle tickets and raffling off prizes such as stay-in plays and foursomes and possibly some equipment if we get that donated. So pretty simple request, I think, but I'll certainly answer any other questions if the council has any for us.
Will you be staying with us through that portion of the agenda if we have any questions for you?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. I don't anticipate any problems, but it's best, I think, to do those as they come up. All right, Emily, do you have anybody else on Zoom?
Rachel, you are now permitted to address council.
Hi, yeah, I am just with the Michigan PGA also, just talking, or the same thing that Kevin said. We have the raffle for the Michigan PGA for PGA Hope. Yeah, basically just what he said.
Perfect. It looks like that will go through on our consent agenda, probably without any complications, but if you don't mind sticking around for about 15 minutes, that would be great. All right, anybody else on Zoom?
Tess Height, you are now permitted to address council. Tess Height, you are now permitted to address council.
Tess, you appear to still be muted. If you hit *6, if you're calling in from a phone, that might unmute you. Or if you don't have anything to say, we can just skip you.
Tess just left, so I
Cool.
don't think.
All right, she has let us know. Anyone else?
Those are all the callers on the line.
Perfect. And my city manager just nicely reminded me that we do actually have a resolution for acknowledging the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scout troop on our agenda, which is just my own personal embarrassment. But or we can pretend that it was a miraculous, instantaneous circumstance. But delighted to be able to pass that soon on our consent agenda. This is the final call for anyone in the audience. If you have not yet filled out a blue card, please do so at the podium. If you have been moved to speak on any matter, otherwise we will move along. Looks like we have a quiet crowd tonight, which is great. Also delighted to hear from people always, of course. Okay, so communication from mayor and council members. We can go right down the line. I guess maybe let's go from right to left instead of left to right today. Mayor Pro Tem Watson, do you have anything that you'd like to?
You changed it around a little bit.
I did.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say I was really excited and had a good time at the MSU Homecoming Parade. It was great to finally be able to get back outside again and see so many people. It was just a fantastic day, fantastic weather, and go Spartans. Thank you.
Mr. Bacon, do you have anything that you'd like to?
Nope, all set.
Councilmember Durheim.
I was just going to give a reminder that as we get into October, we have several free sort of yard waste and fall-related things with free bulk leaves and bags, and it's always a good time to reminder. And that information is on the city's website.
And Councilmember Babcock.
Thank you. It's gotten a lot of attention, but this community recently honored Dr. Robert Green. And my mom is an educator to the core. She is a consummate kindergarten teacher and ended her career teaching student teachers at MSU as a field instructor. And she had always said, I would love to sit and listen to Dr. Green for an hour. And she got her wish. Not only that, she got to meet Aline Hardy and Kristen Shelley, people she's heard me talk about. She's also a huge fan of the library, and she'd heard plenty about our diversity efforts. So that was really a spectacular day. I managed to attend the evening parts of it. I know others were there during the day, so I think collectively we had it well covered. But what an amazing tribute to this community. Also, while we were on semi-break, I guess, I had the opportunity to attend a program at All Saints Episcopal Church about refugee services in the greater Lansing area. And it is amazing to me the many, many people who come here under many different circumstances. And you realize what we take for granted, both in terms of our lives and our safety, our security, our rule of law, but also that we have so many people here who have such an incredible life experience, and we just sort of take it for granted that there are 90 or more languages spoken in this area. So if anyone is interested in that, there's actually a program that helps immigrants and refugees complete their high school diplomas because the state stops providing education at a certain area. If you're interested in that, naturally when I start these things, my memory fails me. However, the Episcopal Church can put you in touch with that, or the Reverend Alice Townley, who happens to be my backdoor neighbor. Lastly, it's great to have the students back, and those scooters look like a lot of fun. I haven't tried one. Tonight would have been the night with all of the paramedics in the room. This would have been my picture. Without the paramedics, I'm not trying that. So they look like a lot of fun. I'm happy they're here. There's actually an article in slate.com today about riding the scooters in, among other places, East Lansing, Michigan. But, there's always a but with a grouchy old lady. But, is there anything Pace can do about them parked in the middle of the sidewalk, or my special pet peeve, perpendicular to the sidewalk? A week or so I was having dinner with a friend who was blind. Not much stops this man. You'd recognize his name if I were to mention it. He runs marathons, but there was a scooter parked perpendicular in front of his favorite restaurant, which happens to be in East Lansing. And as I thought about it, his cane wouldn't have done much to help him. I was there to steer him away from it before he became an East Lansing sidewalk casualty. So I would respectfully request that Pace start looking into ways to ticket those things when they are parked inappropriately. They all have VIN numbers. Perhaps there's something in our contract that would allow us to make them an enjoyable part of our community, but not a hazard. So, thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Babcock. I'll just touch on a few things that have already been mentioned and kind of add my accolades. I was also privileged to walk in the homecoming parade, which was really fun. And it was just, very, very delightful to have that energy, the Spartan energy back in town, and to see all of the families out enjoying perfect weather. When does that happen? That was amazing. And just lots of young, eager, candy-filled children. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I wanted to do a nitpicky household thing, piggybacking on Councilmember Babcock's reminder about leaf pickup. So I know that it is very tempting for your beautiful manicured yards to rake those leaves right into the street and into the gutters. But really, we would prefer that you left them on the boulevard portion of your lawn, which would be between the street and the sidewalk, so that they do not block the storm drains. We have had a lot of water, which seems to be continuing, and when we have all of those leaves in the street waiting to be picked up, they can be quite detrimental to that system. So our little carts can vacuum them right off your lawn, right off the boulevard, so you do not need to rake them into the street. We would actually prefer that you not rake them into the street and leave them on that little kind of right-of-way portion of your lawn. So that's my little nitpicky reminder, because I hate black storm drains. And then, yes, the Robert Greene dedication of the renaming of the Dr. Robert Greene Elementary School was a fantastic community event. Really could not have been better. So thank you for everyone who put so much effort into bringing that to us. It was a very, very special event for our community. So I'm looking at you, Elaine Hardy, and the other members of the commission that worked on that historical marker. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of brief items of update. So we're going to be having some increased communication on a couple of items related to sewer and the rain event on August 12th. So related to sewer function and the August 12th rain event, we're going to be having a presentation to council on November 16th. That will be a work session, discussion meeting. We'll have an overview on how the sewers in general function, also specifically looking at the City of East Lansing sewer system, talking about the combined sewer and some of the decision points that were made, and then also talking about the upgrade process and the continual review of the sewers and construction that happens throughout the city. We'll also be discussing a review of the August 12th rain event that we experienced in East Lansing, obviously a heavy rain event. We'll also be having a webinar presentation on sewers in East Lansing, covering a lot of the same material, but for all residents and to give a chance for people to ask questions to Public Works. We'll have that as a webinar format after that, so probably before the end of November, the week after. And those will be done by our own Director of Public Works, Nicole McPherson. We also plan to do an update to the website on sewer backups and basement flooding to make that link more prominent so people can find those resources. We have an excellent sewer backup brochure that provides lots of great resources on how homeowners can work to protect their homes. We're going to be doing an update on that and a review of that material as well. And then finally, we expect to be receiving a written review of the August 12 rain event from our engineering firm and the contractor on the Glen Cairn construction project. So we'll, of course, be sharing that when we receive it. And then finally, in regards to construction, the Department of Public Works Engineering through Nicole McPherson will be in Glen Cairn for 2 pop-up sessions in the Glen Cairn neighborhood over the next week. So this Friday and then the following Tuesday, just to meet with residents who have questions about construction. Construction did not get to finish because of some material delays. So we'll be talking about that, answering the residents' questions, give them a chance to talk one-on-one, straight from the source from Public Works Director. We'll have handouts, we'll have FAQs and materials for people as well. So we're excited to do that, to be able to answer lots of questions over this period and be able to hopefully provide lots of good information to our residents. With that, if you have any questions for me.
I don't. Do any other council members have anything? Mrs. Draheim.
I'm just wondering, George, those pop-up sessions that you said in the neighborhood, so do you have a sort of a
Yes,
cross streets or time?
We're thinking that we're going to use the city park, Shaw Park, but we were going to put that in the social media and we'll put that in the release so everyone will know where to find us.
Fantastic.
So it's not going to be like a whack-a-mole where we're going to be popping up and hiding, but we will be easy to find. We're going to have a pop-up tent. And
watch for the red flares.
So yes, and then also just want to say congratulations to our Boy Scouts for their 100-year run. I was a Boy Scout back in Queens, New York in the early 1980s. So congratulations to all of you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lahanas. Mr. Bacon, you got something?
Yeah, George, on the question on kind of the research into the causality and that portion of it, there's quite a bit of commentary around kind of the independence of who would be looking into those things. And from my understanding, I just want a little bit more clarification kind of for the public of what type of kind of parallel thing will be going on looking at the flooding.
So obviously we've had a review from our own Public Works. So these are essentially going to be the contractor engineer that does the oversight of the project and the contractor themselves, in addition to our own engineering firm's review. So that's the extent of it. There's not a third-party reviewer who would come in and do a review like that. And we obviously feel that our own Public Works Department would be in the best situation to ask for those reviews and then be able to assess the accuracy of what's provided to us by the contractor. But I don't know if Director McPherson has anything to add to that, if that answers your question. No.
I think generally just making sure there's a clear appearance of the autonomy of how the investigation goes based upon the severity and kind of conjecture around the subject. I mean, there's probably not a more charged subject in the community, so whatever we can do to show impartiality and fair subjectivity around this question, I think it's critical. So if I wouldn't put aside more full secondary look at this thing. That way, everyone's hands are clean in the back end of it. That's not. Bring it back. Hello.
Just to, if I'm understanding what Mr. Lahanos was saying, does such a body exist, an independent body that could come in and conduct that review?
If we were to do a review beyond the review of the firm that's doing it, they would be asking an independent engineering firm, but then we would be hiring them.
Okay.
And then the question would be that they're no longer an independent engineering firm
Right.
because we're hiring them.
Okay.
So there isn't a body that would do a review of our system without being hired, compensated by us at this point for us. I don't know if Director McPherson has any different view on that. Yes, that'd be great.
Thank you, Director McPherson.
Hi, good evening. That would be my assessment as well. I mean, we have the engineering firm that did the full design of the sewer system and the water main and the road work out there. So essentially what I've asked them and the contractor to do is to provide a summary of events of how they saw it, of what happened on that day. You know, it's where we were with the sewer, what was happening with any of the other events out there, where was the contractor at throughout their installation. So, you know, that's what I've asked them to provide, you know, to be able to coincide with, you know, my evaluation of what has happened, which you guys have seen as well. So city manager is correct that we can hire another firm, but again, we would still be hiring another firm, engineering consulting firm, to be able to look at those evaluations.
I guess my question is, why November? I asked the city manager about this in mid-September, early September, and why are we now getting to this in November?
Well, I can answer that question because we have a lot of construction going on and we have a very thin engineering department. Our director has been called up into the military. Nicole McPherson, our interim director, has stepped up into the role. We have 2 engineering spots that are empty behind Director McPherson. So we are supervising construction and doing all the things that Director McPherson has to do. So we have a pop-up this week that we're going to be doing, a pop-up next week, and then we have lots of materials that we have to gather for that, including these written reports from these contractor and engineering firm that we will have at that point. So I think that considering the workload and considering the staffing that we have, I think that that's when Director McPherson said we could have that material ready. So that's when we believe we can have it.
Thank you.
And for the overview of the sewers, it was to present to the new council as well.
I too really wanted information soon, but I'm very happy with sort of what we've laid out, because I think, you know, for all of us, we're most interested in making sure that the public is getting information and that they have an opportunity to ask you questions. So I'm thrilled that we're doing these pop-ups. I think that's the priority, in my view, of giving an opportunity for that. Certainly we want a presentation, but I know that staffing is thin, and I think making sure that that touch point with our neighborhood is the priority. So I'm happy to hear that. I do have a question, though, as it relates to the engineering firm, and I apologize because I'm not as familiar with the project when it started. The engineering firm and the contracting firm, like, how closely are they working together? Is it that that engineering firm designed the system and it's kind of been handed off to that contractor? So is there a fair amount of independence, or is that the same firm? Or are they partners? I assume they're partners.
The engineering consulting firm that we hired to do the design is also doing the construction engineering, which means they're the hands-on deck. They're the ones that are in there on the field every day. They oversee the contractor that's hired by us to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing in regards to the plans and specifications that have been set out. Okay. So they're 2 independent entities.
Okay. I'm just trying to get my hands around, like, having another engineering firm. They would be hired by us, but they'd be not the designers and not sort of people who've been working with the contractor. So
Correct.
maybe there's a slight more independence, although I hear what you're saying about.
Yep.
Mr. Bacon?
Yeah, and I don't fully see the independence. I think they would have a vested interest, even in the slightest sense, and it wouldn't create perhaps a sense of closure that we're going to need to close this issue. I think I'd like to, my background's medical. I think I'd like a second opinion. And that someone who isn't so closely tied to the project and the outcome and frankly their own work, that's a little close for me. And particularly as hard as we've worked on other areas of independence around law enforcement and other things, this doesn't feel independent from that perspective. So I'd be interested in perhaps a second opinion parallel to the other opinion.
We could look at hiring another firm if there's a firm that, we use as-needed contracting with several firms, Tetra Tech and Fishback, that are they both experts in Okay, that can do underground infrastructure review?
Yes. Yep.
So we can prepare a third-party review, but again, it would be one of our as-needed engineers but it would be separate from someone who works with the contract, right?
Yeah, yep, correct.
Good.
Director McPherson, before we move on, I just want to compliment you on the outreach that you have already been doing to residences. I understand that you've been doing door-to-door checks in some areas. I heard of one resident that didn't realize that she had already spoken with the Director of Public Works because she didn't know that's who you were when you knocked on her door. So I know that this is a really heavy lift for you, having been, kind of elevated into this position. I'm sympathetic as somebody that was similarly elevated. So you've had a tough run, and I appreciate you sticking with us.
Great. So my question is just about the webinar and the maps that we've seen about the flooding. Is that going to be available on the website, or is that going to be discussed?
Yeah, we're certainly going to have that information, yes.
Okay. And then, so my next question is the renters. How is that information processed? Like when they report floodings, I've talked before about the ground level people or people that are renting homes. What happens to their information?
What happens to their information sorry?
Like, do they appear on the map, on the flood map?
I would say it would appear as the parcel and not as the individual.
Okay. And then for apartment complexes, would that appear on the flood map also?
Yeah, on the map that we have created with, information that we've gathered, whether it's from email, phone calls, doing door-to-door checks. It's a parcel-based database. So we have our map, and we have little triangles that we put on each parcel that has reported something to us.
Okay.
So it would be on the map as the apartment complex parcel, unless the addresses were separated out in GIS and assessing.
Thanks. And if we're seeing a huge problem at certain apartment complexes, will we be able to see that, or will we be able to offer any solutions?
I don't think the density would show as much because, most people would report it to the property manager. Maybe we would get that call from the property manager, so that's, would be a singular person as opposed to, the hundreds of people that might live in a complex. Yep.
I think we're done with questions. Thank you, Director McPherson, much appreciated. George, was that everything from you for tonight?
That is, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to our city attorney's report. Ms. Denovich.
Thank you. Good evening. At the September 14th discussion-only meeting, Council directed that we prepare a public version of the confidential legal opinion we had drafted regarding Chesterfield Hills. That is included in the materials tonight and is available online if anyone wants to look at that from the agenda packet. It's also my understanding that Council would like to discuss the legal opinion in closed session, and if that remains Council's desire, I would recommend a motion to adjourn to closed session at the conclusion of the business agenda, so at the end, to consider a material exempt from discussion or disclosure under statute, specifically identified as an attorney-client privileged written legal opinion.
Would it be appropriate for me to make that motion?
Yes.
All right, I will move to adjourn to closed session at the conclusion of the business agenda. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bacon. All in favor?
That needs to be a roll call vote, please.
Oh, all right, thank you. Jackson, would you accommodate us, please?
Councilmember Babcock?
Yes.
Councilmember Bacon?
Yes.
Councilmember Draheim?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Watson?
Yes.
Mayor Gregg?
Yes.
And I have nothing else in my report tonight.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. I have got, I guess maybe we should move approval and then discuss it, I think, or wait, I've got one item that I'd like removed, so I have to do that before we approve.
I can read it into the record, and then when you make your motion, you can ask for that item to be removed.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay. So we have the following items on the consent agenda for council's consideration. Item 4.1, approve the following appointments or reappointments to boards or commissions. A, Ellie Bennett to the University Student Commission for a full term ending September 30th, 2022. B, Michael Christensen to the Historic District Commission for a partial term ending December 31st, 2021. Justin Hewson to the Downtown Development Authority and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for a partial term ending June 30, 2025. D, Ron Lacoste to the East Lansing Meridian Water Sewer Authority as an alternate ending December 31st, 2023. E, Marcia Van Ness to the Senior Commission for a partial term ending December 31st, 2021. Item 4.2, approve a resolution recognizing the Boy Scouts of America Troop 2 of East Lansing on their 100th anniversary on October 31st, 2021. Item 4.3, approve a resolution acknowledging Indigenous Peoples Day. Item 4.4, approve a resolution acknowledging Hispanic Heritage Month. Item 4.5, approve a resolution 2021-17, a resolution to establish a community development block grant study committee. Item 4.6, approve a charitable gaming license for the Professional Golfers Association of America, Michigan Section Foundation. Item 4.7, approve the East Lansing Public Library site work and HVAC work change orders 1, 2, and 3 in the total amount of $105,222. Item 4.8, approve the expenditure of $29,900 from the Public Art Fund for the installation of a mural by Dustin Hunt on the northwest exterior wall of the East Lansing Public Library. Item 4.9, approve the Humana Medicare Advantage 2022 insurance renewal. Item 4.10, approve the Stormwater Best Management Practices and Facilities Maintenance Agreement for the Graduate East Lansing and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the agreement. Item 4.11, approve and authorize the city manager to sign a use agreement between Michigan State University and the city of East Lansing for Scene Metro Space located at 110 Charles Street. Item 4.12, approve a street closure for a portion of Linden Street and a portion of Grove Street for the October Fabric and Fiber Festival scheduled on October 16, 2021. Item 4.13, approve a contract with Fishback for construction services for the Bircham Valve Replacement Project and authorize the city manager to sign. Item 4.14, introduce and refer to Planning Commission Ordinance 1507, a request to rezone 210 West Lake Lansing Road from RA Residential Agricultural District to B4 Restricted Office Business District. Item 4.15, introduce and set for the October 19, 2021 business agenda Ordinance 1508, an ordinance to amend Section 22-32 of the City Code to prohibit hair-based discrimination. Those are all the items on the consent agenda for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Lahanas. I need one of these items removed and moved onto the business agenda. Let's see, it is item 4.12. My business is actually one of the businesses that's sponsoring that event, and so I have a conflict of interest, and I will be recusing myself with the permission of my fellow council members from voting on that item. So that will become item, business item, I guess we can just put it at 5.4. Fashion, okay. And then I do have, this is kind of unusual, but it was an unusual situation. I want to read a statement into the record regarding something that happened at the Arts Commission meeting regarding item number 4.8, the mural for the library. If you guys would indulge me reading a prepared statement. Okay, it's on my phone, so I've got to get it out. Okay. We had a shakeup at our last Arts Commission meeting regarding one of our commissioners' strong conviction that a white artist should not represent a black subject. This resulted in the concerned commissioner's resignation and caused a lot of soul searching among the remaining commission members who were left wondering if they had made the right decision to move forward with this mural. Although I can certainly see this former commissioner's point, and I even agree with him in some ways, I think abandoning this project would result in blocking an important mural from our community. I would encourage anyone with similar concerns to watch the video of the art selection panel meeting where the mural finalists were presented and to listen to the conversation around why this mural was so highly praised. I would also direct you to explore Mr. Hunt, that's the artist, Mr. Hunt's body of work, including his collaborations with Sexton High School and the Black Child and Family Initiatives through his company, Muralmatics. In spite of one commissioner's objection, I remain confident that this mural will be an important part of East Lansing's public art collection. If any other council member feels that they need to discuss this and move it onto the business agenda, that's fine with me. I'm fine leaving it on the consent agenda. If anybody else has anything that they would like to move off the consent agenda before we move approval. All right, do I have a motion to approve with the one amendment?
I move approval of the consent agenda with the movement of item 4.12 to the business agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Draheim, seconded by Councilmember Bacon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And congratulations again to our Boy Scout troop. Much appreciated. I think. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. And on Halloween, that's pretty cool. My favorite holiday. All right. That was quite a consent agenda. You have amazing breath control, Mr. Lahanas. All right. Business agenda. Item 5.1. So usually when we do commission, I guess I'll read it. Consideration of the appointments to the Police Oversight Commission. Usually when we do commission appointments, this goes through in the consent agenda. You can see that we had some tonight. I think we moved this onto the business agenda because we thought that there might be just a little bit of discussion since this is a very important step forward. It was not really an invitation to vet the appointees. We don't usually debate people's worthiness in public. It's kind of, I don't know, that seems a little unfair. If any council member sees anyone that they strongly object to, of course, you can always do that. You can do that on the consent agenda. But mostly this is on the business agenda just because this is the first seating of a very important commission that has been a very long time in the making. And we kind of wanted to invest a little bit more gravity into this first seating of members. So does anybody have any discussion, I guess, on this? I'm going to let Mr. Bacon go first just because he was my co-interviewee in this process.
Yeah, we interviewed 37 candidates to get down to 11 commissioners and participants in the first or inaugural Police Oversight Commission. It was a very, very good group of local citizens, participants. This is a very difficult process. We could have made 3 of these commissions out of the group that came through. And I just want to say I'm just really excited and thankful for the level of civic participation and effort to prepare for the interview process. We were doing 15-minute block interviews with 4 questions, very difficult to prepare for virtually. And everyone came through with flying colors, with excellent answers. Giving us a lot of different perspectives and thoughts around the commission, and we came up with this 11, and we're kind of trusting this inaugural group to frame the future and the direction of the Police Oversight Commission for East Lansing, and it's a really good group, and I'm excited to work and support them, and any other persons who interviewed or participated, we'd ask you to please participate in other boards and commissions for the city. There's a great deal of talent here in this area, and if you didn't participate this time, come around when there's renewals. Please reapply or look at one of our other boards and commissions and please participate because this was a very talented group.
Agreed. It was a really difficult decision. It was an intense process. We did a lot of, I think it took about 2 weeks to get it through everyone. 3 days a week of interviews for 2 weeks. But really a chance to meet an incredible group of people who are excited to give back to our community. So echoing Mr. Bacon's comments, I really do encourage anyone who is not selected for this initial seating to strongly look at our other boards and commissions and find another place where your service is badly needed. Councilmember Drahan?
Well, I just want to start thanking you two. This was a huge lift. I've interviewed many candidates for our boards and commissions, and it's not an inconsequential amount of time. And this was basically a full-time week for a person, and you both have full-time other jobs. So thank you. And I just want to also add my thanks to all the people who've applied. I think this looks like a great group. I do have a question about if in the discussions or how going forward as this group proceeds, how this group, how the operating procedures around this group will function around potential conflicts of interest with any of these folks. I know at least one has had some interactions on this issue, and I think that's really, really critical for the integrity of this commission as well as council's, taking advice from them, and whether that was discussed and what the process will be.
Yes, it was. And I'm fairly certain I know which commissioner's name popped out to you, and I actually reached out to that person specifically and asked how they would handle that. At the very least, they would have to recuse themselves from any commission discussion related to that complaint. My feeling is if a complaint arises from one of the individual commissioners, they might have to resign their commission, and work from the outside rather than from the inside. But that was acknowledged, and I think it's known that somebody on the commission could not use the commission to file a police complaint. They would have to find a different way to get satisfaction.
And I guess a couple follow-up questions. Will this commission, it'll have a staff liaison? We won't have any kind of an external facilitator or coordinator? It'll just be a traditional staff liaison position?
There will be a staff liaison. There is, yes, that staff person will be Shelley Newman, who will have help as needed from our DEI administrator, Elaine Hardy, if it's warranted. Those were the two people that sat with us on those interviewed calls and went through this list. The creation resolution for the commission gives them the opportunity to hire an independent investigator, but that would really be more for specific cases as needed, more than the running of the day-to-day running of the commission. So day-to-day running, it will be handled as other city commissions are handled with a staff liaison.
And most of our commissions do have operating procedures of some sort. So I would like that to be a sort of first order of business for this group.
Yep.
And I do think that the issue of conflicts need to be taken on right away. And it'll be for that group, but maybe I think council actually approves the operating procedures, or maybe it's just when it's written in ordinance with, I don't know, that the city manager can answer that. But either way, I would like that issue to be taken on. I do feel very strongly that if any of these commissioners, one name did jump out at me, but I think it could be true for any of them or any future, that if there's any kind of a case that is active at the city that actually recusing on just that matter is not going to be sufficient, that it actually probably does need to be a resignation from that body. That's my personal opinion, at least on it.
Okay. I think our staff liaison can take that to this first seating. I believe you're correct. The first thing that they're going to have to do is figure out their operating procedure. So, and name a chairperson and all of the things that commissions must do. Yep. Exactly. Mr. Lahanas, do you know off the top of your head if the council approves those documents from commissions? It's been a while since we created one.
I do not believe that there's administrative rules that come to council on a regular basis, but I can certainly check into it and get back to council.
That would be good. I think that this group is going to need as much guidance as they can. This has been a pretty guidance, not in how to do their job, but how to decide how to do their job, if that makes sense. It's been a while since we created one of these.
There are administrative procedures on things like absenteeism or removal from the commission, but not about actual, I don't believe there's conflict of interest, but it all revolves around financial conflict of interest. Commission members have to sign the same conflict of interest that all staff have to sign, but I don't believe there's anything like what you're envisioning. So I think that would have to be crafted.
I think we can carry that to them as their first order of business. Does anyone else have any? Councilmember Babcock.
I don't know all the names on this list. I do recognize a few, and Some of them did just remarkable work on our study committee and are very, very knowledgeable. And so I look forward to seeing what this committee does. That's all.
Agreed. Mayor Pro Tem Watson, do you have anything to add?
It's the same as other people have been saying. I'm looking forward to this group. It's been something that we've needed in this community. And thank you to the people who applied, and thank you to the people who will be serving on the commission.
All right.
The city attorney just chimed in that they may craft administrative procedures, and it could come to council at that point for approval. Typically, they don't, but she pointed out that it is in the charter a code that you can do that. So you can request that they do that and come back to council for approval.
In this case, it might be warranted. This is a new and powerful body that is directly related to another city branch that is, our public safety department. So I would say that might be appropriate. All right. Well, should we read this list, I think? So I guess I would move approval for the following members to be added to the Police Oversight Commission. We decided to stagger the terms of service. It's a 3-year term on a commission, but obviously we didn't want to have every commission member have their term expire at the same time. So we've divided it up. Some people were appointed for a partial 1-year term, some people were appointed for a partial 2-year term, and some people were appointed for a full 3-year term. And based on our city charter, I think, if you are appointed to a partial term, you are still eligible to fill 2 full-year terms. So I don't want anyone to think that we shortchanged anybody by giving them a partial term up front. It actually makes them eligible to serve longer, theoretically. Okay. Ernest Connerly for a full term ending December 31st, 2024. Ron Fink for a full term ending December 31st, 2024. Sharon R. Hobbs, PhD, for a full term ending December 31st, 2024. Benjamin Hughes for a full term ending December 31st, 2024. Sean Farzam for a partial term ending December 31st, 2023. Eric Williams for a partial term ending December 31st, 2023. Kath Etzel for a partial term ending December 31st, 2023. Robin O. Etchinson for a partial term ending December 31st, 2023. Noel Garcia for a partial term ending December 31st, 2022. Gwen Dombrowski for a partial term ending December 31st, 2022. Amanda R. Morgan for a partial term ending December 31st, 2022. Is there a second to this approval? Seconded by Councilmember Babcock. All in favor? Aye. Meetings will take place on the second Monday of the month at 6 p.m. There's only 2 meetings remaining in 2021, which is November 8th and December 13th. Those are public meetings, as all East Lansing Commission meetings are public meetings. So if anyone is interested to watch this new ship take its maiden voyage, I would encourage you to watch out for those notices. All right. That's I don't know. I feel kind of a sense of, I don't know, like it's been such a long time that we've been working on that to have it done. I guess, yeah, I do kind of want to clap. Can we clap? Yeah. All right, okay, let's spend some money. Business agenda 5.2, consideration of a fiscal year 2022 budget amendment for various funds in the combined amount of $626,585. Hello.
A long time since I've been up here.
I know, it feels normal and weird at the same time, doesn't it?
This is a pretty straightforward amendment. It's part of our normal review procedures, with the exception of last year. We didn't do one because we weren't sure where things were landing, but part of our standard procedure in finance is to review all of our outstanding projects at the end of the prior fiscal year and see if there's anything that's going to carry over into the new budget that wasn't originally budgeted. So about $391,000 of this amendment is all of those projects that carried over, and we don't want to harm the current year's budget, so we're adding that. It's various projects and various funds. Then there's 2 other significant items that we wanted to include. Earlier this year in July, council approved a contract for police, fair policing consultation contract. So that's $110,000 that we wanted to include into the budget. And then for the IT fund, they're running into some infrastructure needs that are higher than they were expecting for their original budget. So it's adding about $125,000. That's pretty much it, and it's a big number. We did exclude DPW funds from this because we're just kind of waiting for projects to catch up. So if it's needed, we will do another amendment similar to this for encumbrances for streets, water, sewer, those kind of things later, if needed.
Any questions? Councilmember Babcock.
This prohibition on cell phones is really hard because that's what I use as a calculator, and my math skills are what you'd expect from a law school graduate.
I won't judge you if you need
Yeah, we're in this together, sister. So it's just the IT and the police and consultation contract, or is there anything else, a spare change in the 600,000?
Other than encumbrances, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Do I have a motion? Moved by Councilmember Babcock. I guess that would be a motion to approve the amendment to fiscal year 2022 budget?
Yes, okay, thank you.
Perfect.
In the amount of $626,585.
Exactly.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Bacon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Cruising right along. 5.3, Housing Study and Strategic Plan, Next Steps. I am legit excited about this.
Ms. Gordon, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the agenda item. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy to be here tonight. And I didn't want to take too much of your time, but we had a great meeting with the joint commissions of Housing and Planning a couple weeks ago, where our consultants from both the kind of strategic planning side and also the data side came, and we had a robust conversation regarding the strategic plan that the consultants have put together for us. And also dovetailed into a conversation about some of the near-term actions that staff would recommend pursuing as kind of a next step for the plan. And that's really where I would like to focus the conversation tonight, essentially to make sure we're on the same track in terms of alignment with the council's expectations in the near term here. We have a great deal of work ahead of us, a lot to learn. And I think that knowing that we're kind of aligned with where council wants to go before engaging the Planning Commission, Housing Commission, and other commissions was just a good opportunity moment to put in front of you. So ultimately, if you kind of scroll down, we digested the main thrusts of the plan with some key takeaways that we've summarized for the council and the public here. And then if you really just want to get down to the next slide here is where we've queued up 7 strategies that we can implement here immediately in terms of exploring these various aspects of housing in East Lansing and potential next steps. I think the idea is that we would go to planning and or housing on many of these, engage staff from multiple divisions in my department as well as staff in other departments. And really dive deep into these particular items as kind of the near-term plan, while we also think through kind of the longer-term planning aspects. Expect several large conversations, engagement of the public through the commissions and otherwise, and ultimately potentially bringing some actions in front of the council for potential consideration. So I'm happy to kind of walk through this list if you'd like, or take feedback, whatever you prefer. What staff is really looking for is, are we on the right track with these near-term items? Is there anything missing? Is there anything that you would as a council would like us to add to the near-term list? Essentially, are we on the right track before we engage the commissions? So with that, I'm happy to, again, walk you through this or just take questions, whatever you prefer.
I guess I see that there is a section here on low to moderate income housing. It's and I know the body do not have the ability to dictate rents within our jurisdiction. More's the pity. But that has really come up again and again as kind of our primary stumbling block in terms of really being a welcoming community for people at all income levels. And I guess, I wasn't really expecting to see a magic wand on this, because we know that that's a significant problem and we don't have that authority. But do you see, I guess, do you see hope within this set of recommendations that we've got a path forward to addressing that in a meaningful way?
Absolutely. I think that there are two near-term items that really focus in that area. One would be number 2.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
Where we hope to really take an honest assessment of how these programs are they effective? Are there things that we can do to modify them to make them more successful? And ultimately, is there any other strategies that we're not employing that perhaps we should be employing to address equity issues directly? Also, I think that some of the other items related to diversified housing types, number 6, for instance, and also engaging with the actual development community and the financing community specific to low to moderate income to see if specifically there's creative strategies that we can employ. And I think thinking big here is possible. And that's really our intention is to leave no stone unturned in terms of what's possible, and really engage the various stakeholder groups that we have in East Lansing in a serious and concerted way to look at what's possible and how we might make it happen.
For people watching on Zoom, could we scroll that screen so that items number 6 and 7 are visible at least for a short period so they can see? Yes, thank you. All right, do any other council members have anything that they would like to ask Mr. Fehrenbach at this time? Mr. Bacon.
It's a good assessment and good ideas. I think the big challenge is obviously the housing stock's low. Where do we build new houses? Supply and demand on this stuff. There's only so far you can go with these steps. Supply and demand dictates prices and value. So how do we increase the supply? I understand the density portion of it, but then as well, single-family homes. Are there things we can do with our zoning? And every time we zone something a different way in East Lansing, my skin crawls as we don't build another subdivision or a set of houses. It's really challenging. So I just think as we move forward, the housing study and everything else, we need to, every time we prepare to zone, that we're determining that we've decided that's another set of houses that aren't going to be built in East Lansing if we zone it for something else. So I think that's where it's at part of the way too, and finding the developers and the partners to 3 bedrooms, 2 baths kind of thing until there's no ground left going forward, because we're just running out of places for people to live and to join the community. So that's just my perspective on this, and I always want to hear that on new builds and where we're going to go with putting in some new housing along with recapture and all the other stuff we're going to do. Those are great ideas as well, but where can we build new? Thank you.
Side tangent to Mr. Bacon's comment. Is there, I guess you're more up on current, zoning trends than I am, but is there a movement back towards integrating some non-residential properties into residential neighborhoods? I'm thinking the corner store type thing. Just I worry that we're creating kind of islands of isolated houses out in our northern tier and really not connecting them back to, I don't know, just sort of an anti-sprawl philosophy. Is there any talk in that way in terms of our zoning and future land use?
I think there's certainly conversations about mixed use. I think those are conversations we need to really have and flesh out with specifically the Planning Commission, but others as well. And just to address Councilmember Bacon's points, I think there are some big conversations that are queued up here in terms of zoning and also in terms of density that will get right to those issues. And raise some fairly large conversations, which will be a considerable amount of work for staff and the commissions, but we feel that it's appropriate given the information that we have, that now's the time to go forth with this effort. So.
Councilmember Trahan.
So I'll just second your thing too. More than the trend of sort of requiring every new development to have retail on the bottom, more like the corner store. And I think, so form-based codes in some cases can do that. I know our form-based codes focused on our downtown, which is a retail heavy, but in some places that can support that. I just want to say, I think in terms of next steps and when we talk about density, I think those items, particularly around like number 6, when we talk about density in a different way than the way we've talked about our downtown density of high rises, really looking at some of our near-term neighborhoods and being able to, well, not just our near-term neighborhoods, but particularly sort of first and second ring out from downtown. Accessory dwelling units is a huge and important part of the conversation around affordable housing, and both for homeowners who want to buy and live in that area, and that can serve sometimes as offsetting. So you can have an accessory dwelling unit that is able to be rented in some cases, or if it, depending on how that would comport with our rental ordinances. I think the other thing is looking at mid-density, by duplexes and triplexes, and there's really a lot of push in a lot of communities to be thinking about that as an affordable thing, and that can be integrated in our neighborhoods, and that can be owner-occupied. So there are some interesting ways to do that to help with housing demand at an affordable level. And I think the other thing I just never want to lose sight of, because we tend to think of student housing and affordable housing, we have a lot of students who can't afford housing in this community, and those are not separate things. So it's really easy to focus on the high rises with the pricey apartments, but we have a lot of students here who really could use affordable housing. And so I think when we look at particularly revisiting, which I would highly encourage council to do, it will happen after my time, but revisiting the inclusionary housing requirements to think about what we really mean by low income and moderate income, and maybe looking at changing some of the definition of the percentage of income and thinking about how some of that could be targeted to students of need. And just kudos, this is a huge lift, and I think it's so incredible that these two commissions are working together too. I love to see our commissions crossing their expertise and working together on things like this. So thanks so much, Mr. Fehrenbach.
Agreed. Thank you. Not to put you on the spot, Dana, but we've heard from everybody else. Do you have anything to add? You don't have to.
When will we see you back again?
It's a great question. I think it's probably a function of how this work unfolds, and I think you can expect to see us back multiple times, because each one of these items and the sub items in and of itself can spawn other work and other decision points from a policy standpoint. So I think we'll be talking about housing in East Lansing for the foreseeable future. And remember, this is just our near-term action list. So as we continue to do this, we'll also be monitoring and looking at the recommendations from the consultants, as well as kind of what's happening in terms of the conversations unfolding to recommend whether we may want to take on some additional work. Ultimately, we'd like to have kind of a longer term kind of project list and strategy list. If you look at the document the consultant provided, there are a number of things for us to consider in there. So these are just the ones that we flagged as priorities for the near term.
I think, your statement that we'll be talking about housing for a long time, I think we have been talking about housing for a long time. I think this to me is kind of a change in that conversation, where there's maybe a hopeful twist in it, as opposed to kind of a despairing hand-wringing, which I'm delighted to be here and to be a part of it for however long I serve on this body. I think this is a really exciting moment, even though it seems really boring to probably everybody else except for me. And I'm sure everyone else on this council were riveted by housing. So thank you, Mr. Fehrenbach. Also through you, please extend our congratulations to both of those commissions, and also the good work that our consultant has done on this. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, do we need to vote on this, or, I mean, it's listed as a business item, but I don't really see a vote.
No, we just took the opportunity to bring this forward as sort of a discussion. You certainly could vote on it if you wish, but I think staff is clear that we're going to move forward with these items and return to council in due time on each.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, well, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Bacon.
And Mr. Fehrenbach, just last question. As far as public and listening parts of this, is there built-in steps along the way for kind of listening? I know everyone won't be satisfied no matter which way this goes, but are there at least some apparatuses for listening as you're,
But from community members?
Perhaps.
Yes, that's certainly a priority for us, and I think that as we go into many of these, basically everything on this list will engage the public in various ways that are appropriate, but we're always interested in taking input on how to do that better, especially during the, I guess, sort of post-pandemic situation we're in, so it's a brave new world in terms of community outreach, but I think there's also opportunities there for us to look at creative strategies. So,
thank you.
All right, well, if you feel satisfied with your direction, we can let you go.
Cool.
Thank you for your time, and excited to see what happens next. All right, item 5.4, let me read it as it appeared on the consent agenda, and then I will recuse myself. Approval to approve a street closure for a portion of Linden Street and a portion of Grove Street for the October Fabric and Fiber Festival scheduled on October 16th, 2021. I will not be voting on this since my business is one of the sponsoring entities. I think maybe just a nod from council members that that's okay. You guys need to allow me to not vote. So, okay, cool. I'm out. Mayor Pro Tem, this is your meeting now.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that part of it, but does anyone want to make any comments or remarks before we make a motion? Councilmember Bacon.
I'm just now reading this part of it, but it looks really cool. We're always interested in different types of activities and the diversity of activity, and this is something I don't even hardly know what any of this stuff is, but I bet it's going to be fun with fabrics and seams and stuff. So, yeah, the mayor's been teaching me some of this stuff, but yeah, it looks amazing, and I'm just excited to have a diversity of opportunities for people to engage in the downtown. So it looks wonderful.
Thank you.
I'll move approval of a street closure for a portion of Linden Street and a portion of Grove Street for the October Fabric and Fiber Festival scheduled on October 16, 2021.
Just one moment, if that's okay. Councilmember Babcock had her hand raised. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say, we have scouts here, and I will tell a highly inappropriate personal story. I flunked the Girl Scout sewing badge. The mayor knows this. We've discussed it. I am utterly traumatized by the confluence of events with the scouts in the room and the sewing event. Jesse, I will never, ever learn to sew. My mom was the badge leader. I'm still not over it. But this does sound like a great event for the other 49,999 people in this town. I'll just be hiding. But all the best, and I'd happily second Ms. Draheim's motion.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thanks, guys. All right, I need my agenda back, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, rejoining the meeting. I think we need to move to adjourn to closed session to consider material exempt from discussion by statute MCL 15.268, specifically identified as an attorney-client privileged written legal opinion. I think that needs to be a roll call vote. Before we lose our scouts, I wanted to congratulate you guys all on your patience sitting through this riveting meeting. I hope you learned a little bit about public service. Maybe you can get a badge. I don't know. If I was me, I would demand a badge. Clerk, do we need to do a roll call for adjournment?
You already.
Oh, we did? Okay, so,
We're
All
back
right,
to close the
adjourn to
meeting.
closed session. We will just, we're kind of learning to navigate this hybrid virtual space. So we need to adjourn this meeting from an open meeting, but in order to accommodate kind of ease of movement, we are going to be adjourning from our Zoom session. No, we're going to adjourn from here. We're going to come back here.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just going to walk off here, go to a separate room, then come back and you
And then
close-
adjourn.
and adjourn the
Okay.
meeting from here.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for your patience while we practice our rusty in-person meeting skills. All right, anybody who wants to stick around to watch us adjourn is welcome to do so, but it's going to be pretty boring. Okay. Do I have a motion to return to open session?
Motion.
Moved by Councilmember Bacon, seconded by Councilmember Babcock. All right, we are back in open session. Oh, roll call vote. Thanks, Jackson. Appreciate you guys checking on me all the time.
Councilmember Babcock,
Yes.
Councilmember Bacon,
Yes.
Councilmember Draheim.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Watson,
Yes.
Mayor Gregg.
Yes. All right, so that brings us to the end of our agenda. Unless anyone has got like some crazy point of privilege they want to bring up, please don't. Okay, we are adjourned.